Hey, Towerfall is not a game, but is instead an outlet for ruining friendships and getting yourself on hit lists. This game is such an emotional investment, I think I popped every blood vessel in my body just playing the versus mode. Aside from the early onset PTSD, Towerfall offers much in a small package. That's my way of saying the game is short, or at least the story mode is, but that isn't the fun part of Towerfall. The fun part is waving goodbye to all of your closest friends as you return to a pile of broken controllers, but I can't just tell you about these fun parts, so let me show you the World of Towerfall. Okay, I'm not gonna waste your time with this video, because an intro like that needs an explanation. Towerfall is a multiplayer to the core. Sure, there are certain things that you can do in single player, but all of those things can be done with at least one other player. Those things are the two different campaigns. Quest is a game mode that has you and optionally a friend fighting through waves of monsters. This isn't too difficult until you realize that this co-op has friendly fire. The co-op can be easier with friends, but most of the time is spent dodging your partner's stray arrow. As you probably picked up by now, I decided to play through all of this game with one of my friends. You can find his channel in the description. But I do ask you be careful, because I think he might not be a human anymore. Good job. Now, I'll explain how to actually play the game in a bit, but first let me talk about the basics of this wave combat thing we have going on. Basically, a bunch of monsters spawn through these portals to kill you, and when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. Movement is 10 times more important than whatever this thing is, because if I'm being honest with you, curb-stomping monster is a lot more fun than just shooting it. These guys are placed like chess pieces, and it's your job to... It's pretty much all the same for a few levels until you reach the King's Court. This is the first boss of Towerfall, and let me tell you now, the bosses in this game are so good, they could have made an entire separate game for them. But that's besides the point. This boss involves dodging these arrows and learning what it feels like to be in a plane crash. Just hit him 3 times, and the fight's over. Now you can unlock 3 new levels that you can go find in Versus mode. 2 of them are more of the same, but Tower Forge, well, let's just say it looks like hell for a reason. This level gave us a bit of trouble, just a tiny bit, but eventually we got it. If you paid attention to the levels, you would have noticed these little arrow combos, and I'm not going to spoil the actual code for you, but I will show you the final level. Ascension.
Hey, that's like the name of the game!
How very observant of you, unfortunately. This level is pretty cool because it's the only level where you can hold down and watch your character fall forever. This applies to arrows too, and all I can say is be careful. Now you see how Towerfall is both the best and most traumatic multiplayer experience ever made. But that's mostly it for the single player, so I think it's time to move on to the most important part of Towerfall, the Versus. Towerfall's Versus mode is worse for friendships than Mario Party, and that's saying something. This game will devolve from playing the game to acting like monkeys in a fist fight. This Versus mode can have up to 4 people and up to 6 if you play on Switch. There are 3 main game modes, Last One Standing, Headhunters, and Team Deathmatch. My personal favorite is Headhunters because not only do you gain points by killing people, but you can also lose them by dying in the stupidest ways possible. Very fun. Where this gets a little more fun is with Modifiers. These can either make the game completely unplayable or completely unplayable but also really fun. These modifiers can range from spawning with a certain type of arrow to literally having a head bigger than your entire body. Now speaking of arrows, what a surprise that the game about archery has arrows. Well actually, they are more like heat-seeking missiles than arrows, but you get the point. There are different types of arrows that do different things, but I won't really talk about that because at the end of the day, getting hit by any arrow isn't going to feel good. Instead, I'll talk about how arrows actually work in the game. The main mechanic of arrows is that you can only hold 6 total, but you can pick them up after they've been shot. It's as simple as walking over them because apparently someone covered them in double-sided tape. You can mix and match these 6 arrows though, so don't get too upset. But what if you don't want to wait for those arrows to hit the ground? It's as simple as diving headfirst into them. Dashing is one of the most essential mechanics in Towerfall. It's the basis of the entire movement system and is always the difference between winning and losing a fight. Paying taxes is almost as important, emphasis on the almost. Anyway, there are 2 different forms of dash depending on how you input it. The normal 1-button dash is a simple dash forward with a stall at the end. This is how you catch arrows, or at least that's what I think this is. but it also has a few downsides. This dash isn't really good for movement because of the stall, but the stall makes it really easy to time catching arrows. But there is a different version of the dash that is great for movement. The hyper jump is an alternative version of the dash in which you're flung at Mach 5 across the entire stage. It's performed by pressing both dash buttons in quick succession, and if mastered is one of the most satisfying movement systems in any game. But be careful, because unless you time it perfectly, you cannot catch arrows in a hyper jump. Now, we know the movement is important, as well as the combat, but you may be wondering who actually does this moving and shooting. The cast of Towerfall is very diverse, ranging from a dead person to literally Sensei Wu.
Long before time had a name, the first Spinjitzu master created Ninjago.
You start with a small base roster of characters, but as you play, you unlock more and more. Most of them are actually pretty difficult to unlock, and I don't think there was a single time I actually survived unlocking a character. There isn't really much else to cover when talking about Towerfall. I'll give this game an 8 out of 10. As well, the gameplay is really fun, and the multiplayer is flawless. I don't really have any friends left after playing it. Also, a lack of single-player content, but mostly the fact that I lost all my friends. Anyway, if you're interested in this game, it's really cheap, and commonly goes on sale for only $3, which is a total steal. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you later. Bye.